So this is Gilford the Rising, or I guess kind of Warriors. So basically, this deck works around this card, Gilford the Rising. So it cannot be special summoned. During the turn you normal summon this card, shuffle 2 warrior type monsters from your graveyard into the deck. This turn it can make 3 attacks on monsters. So pretty cool, can attack 3 monsters. A lot of the time that will clear the board, can get rid of a lot of pesky defense monsters and get to life points. But this card can also sometimes win the game almost single-handedly. And the main partner in crime for this is the Pure Glass Spears. So this monster, 2500 attack, 2500 defense. We can change its battle position, give another monster or itself, plus 1000 attack and piercing. So 3500 can attack all 3 monsters with piercing in some situations, in fact quite a lot of situations, will just win the game on the spot. Can be a really, really powerful OTK tool. So as a backup strategy, we also have the Piercing Samurai, which if we have 3 face-up monsters on your field, send the top card of your deck to the graveyard, 1 face-up warrior type monster on your field inflicts piercing damage. So again, it's decent, you know, 2500 attacks 3-time piercing, that's pretty good. But then if we combine that with our Ruler's Current, we can send a warrior monster from hand to the graveyard, 1 face-up warrior type monster with 2000 or more defense on your field gains attack equal to its original defense until the end of the turn. That's 4700 attack, piercing, attacking all 3 monsters, which is bonkers. If you manage to pull that off, you're probably winning the game. Now going through the other cards, we have Yami the Dark Delayer Supreme Soldier Spear, 2500 attack, 2500 defense. A fantastic opening play, by the way, with this deck would be to just summon 2 monsters and then set one of these cards. 2500 defense is a real pain in the ass for your opponent to deal with. A lot of the cards that out monsters tend to outface up monsters, and 2500 can be a big number to get over. But yeah, Soldier Spear protects our warriors from being destroyed by trap cards. This can be really good to protect our Gilford the Rising from things like Dark Revelation or Mirror Force or Torrential Tribute, just any of these big blowout trap cards. These cards are just fantastic. Next up, Zaborg the Thunder Monarch is our legend. We decided to go with Zaborg because it works really well to out really problematic cards. We were originally playing Abyss Soldier and we were also playing Pitch Black Warble for a bit, but after we ran into a 5-headed dragon and it really kind of stumped us and ended up, I think we did end up losing that game. We decided Zaborg was a really good inclusion because it's just a really good way to out these big problematic boss monsters. So we've decided to go with that, and along with it, we also have Hebe the Star Vassal. This is a really cool card. So during the turn you normal summon this card, shuffle 2 monsters with 1000 defense from your graveyard into the deck. Your opponent special summons 1 level 6 or lower effect monster from their graveyard to their field face up defense position. Then you can add 1 level 5 or higher monster with 1000 defense from your graveyard to your hand. There's a lot to unpack here. First off, Zaborg is a level 5 monster with 1000 defense, which means we can add it back to our hand, letting us reuse it, which is really, really strong. Next up, we need to shuffle monsters with 1000 defense. That means now we need to include a lot of monsters in the deck with 1000 defense, but spoiler alert, we have done that. And finally, we get to special summon a monster to your opponent's field. So your opponent gets to choose which one. As long as it's level 6 or lower an effect monster, it gets summoned to their field in defense. Now that's very, very important because Gilford can only make 3 attacks on monsters. So we always want to make sure our opponent has 3 monsters, so when we hit all of them with our massive piercing damage, we're getting maximum damage in. So a lot of the time we want to give our opponent a monster to make our massive piercing Gilford hit even harder, which can be really, really important. Piercing Samurai also has 1000 defense, which again works really well with Hebe. Next up we have Seal of the Sky Savior Knight. So we can reveal 5 Celestial Warriors to reduce a monster's attack by 1000. Again, really, really powerful. Reducing monsters' attack is unbelievably strong, and this is really good because this does lock us into warriors, and that's the most important part. That most annoyingly, that's going to mean that our Pure Glass Spears can't attack if we use the Sky Savior Knight's effect, but our Gilford and Yami Ruler can attack, which means they can get over something that's like 3500 attack just with that. So it's really, really good. But again, you just have to make really sure that when you lock yourself into warriors, you don't need to be able to attack with other things, like Zaborg as well. Next up, Shitotsu the Talismanic Warrior. So if the only face-up monster on your field are warrior-type monsters, place 1 card from your hand to the bottom of your deck. Special summon a warrior-type monster with 1000 attack and 1000 defense from your graveyard face-up to your field in defense position. So a lot of the time you'll be summoning another copy of this, and this is just to get out tribute fodder to be able to summon out our big tribute monsters, but sometimes you want to go into Minanagi the Talismanic Warrior. So if you have another face-up monster with 1000 attack and 1000 defense, so for example the Shitotsu from before, then we can place 1 card from our hand on the bottom of the deck. Add 1 level 8 monster with 2500 attack from your graveyard to your hand. So again, that's all of our boss monsters. So we can get back our Gilford and set up our OTK. We can get back our Pure Glass Spears if we just need that piercing and extra damage boost. Just really, really strong, and being able to recycle our cards is really, really important. Originally, we were playing Mizame the Ringing Alarm with this, and Mizame, again, kind of does the same thing. It just requires our opponent to have a monster with 2500 attack. So sometimes that will work, sometimes that won't. But in this version of the deck, where we're using the Zaborg with the Hebe, I feel like Minanagi is just better. So we've decided to go with that. The next up, Amazing Dealer, fantastic card, unbricks you, discard 3, draw 3, really, really powerful card. Don't really need to say too much about this. It's just an amazing staple, and same with Galactica Jamais Vu. Being able to recycle spell cards, really, really important. The extra draw can be super, super impactful, and it's just a fantastic staple all around. Should be included in as many decks as possible. Grand Extreme, again, a bit of Grave Hate is always really useful, and we're only running the 1 copy because we only have 3 Sea Serpents to summon it, but a lot of the time this can be really, really important to get out our Pure Glass Spears. We can also summon Spears in defense mode and then change it to attack mode using its own effect, therefore getting the effect off, which is really, really good. Because a lot of the time when you do just hard summon this, you have to summon it out and then either attack with it, or you can change it to defense mode using its effect, which means you don't get to attack with it, which kind of sucks. We've decided to go with Dark Hole for our Legend spell. This is because, again, there are just a lot of annoying monsters that can be really hard to deal with, and just having Dark Hole being able to deal with them is really, really important. If your opponent's able to swarm with like a lot of fusion monsters, for example Dark Galaxy is quite good at that, then Dark Hole is a good way to just get rid of all of them at once without having to worry about it. You could also play things like Graceful Charity or Monster Reborn, and they're both fine. I just feel like having a extra out to those big annoying monsters like big fusions and big maximums is really, really impactful, and that's why I'm running it in this deck. Next up, our Draw Power, 3 Pot of Arrogance and 2 Trade-In. Trade-In, really good. We do have 7 targets for it, so we should be getting off a lot. Drawing 2 is obviously really good. And Pot of Arrogance does have the annoying little side effect of during the turn you have not activated a spell and you cannot activate spells for the rest of the turn. But a lot of the time that doesn't matter, and just having access to more draw, because again, this is basically a combo deck that can scrap, but effectively we're trying to get off that combo. The more draw power we have, the better. And that also leads us into Nobody Scat Thief, which again, fantastic draw power. Can unbrick our hand, we can blank the next 3 draws. It's just a really powerful card. The only negative about running this card at 3 is that, again, it does make it very vulnerable to Sea Dragon Knight, because we'd have 1 copy in the graveyard and then we have more on the field, they can get popped. But this trap is fantastic, and occasionally as well, it can protect us from losing the game by making it so we don't take any damage from level 8 or lower monsters, which can be really, really good. The Magic Cylinder is the obvious last trap. It's fantastic. It's the best trap in the game. It can win games on its own a lot of the time, and it's just fantastic. I don't know why we wouldn't be playing Magic Cylinder. The extra deck is all just cards to be used with Sealer, and then the side deck is basically cards that work against XQT, against the Sevens Wonder Fusion, or against the Sea Serpent Maximums, because that's what we're expecting to play against. This deck should be able to go toe-to-toe with just about any other deck. It's just those 3 that might give us kind of pause for thought. But yeah, that's the basic idea of the deck. It's very fun. This deck is very fun to play. I've been really enjoying it. Let's fire on into some replays so I can show you what it can do.